Happy New Year and welcome to your 2022 yearly horoscope. The way that I've structured these readings is in chronological order, which means it will be nice and easy to follow for you as I will be going through month by month from January through till December. Now, I strongly recommend that you grab a pen and a piece of paper because I have jam-packed these readings full of information. I also recommend that you find out the degree of your ascendant, sun, or moon sign, and the degree will fall somewhere from 0 degrees through till 29 degrees. If this is your sun sign, an easy way to figure this out is if you're born on the first day of the season, you will be 0 degrees in that sign. If you're born on the second day, you'll be 1 degrees, and so on and so forth. Now, before I get into your horoscopes today, I just wanted to say that if you watch your ascendant, sun, and moon sign horoscope for 2022, this will give you a more blended overview of what's to come. If you've just purchased the one, that's totally fine as well. So sit back, grab a beverage, and enjoy. Hi Scorpio, Sun, Moon and Risings. Welcome to your 2022 yearly horoscope. Before I get into your reading today, I just wanted to give you a bit of an overview of what you can expect for the year ahead. 2022 will be a huge year of change for all Scorpios, and that is because you are going to experience a series of eclipses take place in your first house and your seventh house in the signs of Scorpio and Taurus respectively. So I imagine many of you Scorpios are going to be realigned with your life purpose, and you are going to experience huge windfalls of abundance for those of you who are still working. And this is shown by Jupiter entering the sign of your sixth house. So there's going to be a lot of work available for those of you who are still wanting to be in the workforce. And of course, we're going to see the South Node enter the sign of Scorpio, which means it will be transiting your first house, and we haven't seen the South Node in Scorpio for 19 years. And at the same time, we're also going to see the North Node enter Taurus in your seventh house. So this can bring about many new relationships of a platonic kind. You'll have many more friendships coming through, and there may even be a new committed relationship or a marriage taking place for some of you Scorpios. And now let's dive into your horoscope. January is going to be an enormous month of change for all signs, but especially for you Scorpios. But before I get into January, let's just revisit how we wrapped up 2021. On the 19th of December, we saw Venus station retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. So Venus will actually be retrograde in Capricorn in your third house from the 19th of December through till the 29th of January. With Venus here, you are going to be reevaluating all of your personal relationships. So this includes relationships with your co-workers, with your friends, with your siblings, with your relatives, and also given that Venus rules over your seventh house, which represents your committed romantic partner, you may even be reevaluating this relationship as well. So with Venus retrograde in your third house, you may actually be renegotiating contracts, and this could be with people that you work with or that you collaborate with. And this is indicated by the fact that Venus represents your finances and your resources, and Venus ruling over your seventh house represents contracts, and the third house itself is also connected to contracts and paperwork. So you may be making some very significant changes in these relationships. Now, this could be pertaining to your business relationships, the deals that you've done with clients, or this could even be you renegotiating a prenup if you're looking at getting married. Now, the third house rules over writing projects and really projects of all kinds. So this would cover things like blogs, news reports, this would be essays, articles, and of course any kind of reporting that you do. This could even be reports that you do on YouTube. And given that Venus rules over anything that is artistic, and it also rules over your 12th house, which represents music, your creativity, and your artistic pursuits, you may actually be recommencing some kind of art course that you were doing, or it could be an art project or even a music project. Now, the 12th house rules over all kinds of spiritual practices. So maybe you are rediscovering your love of astrology or of tarot or of of anything of a similar nature. Now, the 12th house in astrology rules over anything that is glamorous. And the reason I'm referencing the 12th house so much is because Venus rules the 12th. So whatever Venus rules over and whichever house it is in, these two themes start getting blended together. So with the 12th house representing things like beauty and spiritual retreats and spa retreats and Airbnbs and hotels and B&Bs, you may be reopening your business if you had, an Airbnb, or if you have a bed and breakfast, or if you manage a hotel, and so on and so forth. On a different level, you may actually be closing down one of your businesses, and this would pertain to those of you who have been considering doing this for a very long time. And that is because retrogrades are about either reevaluating or rethinking how we do things, or finally making and executing a decision on something that we've been contemplating for a very long time. Now, on a different level, you may actually go back into business with another person. So this could be clients coming back, this could be you going back into business with a former business partner, or you could just be, reevaluating the terms and the conditions of your alliance or your partnership with your business partner. Now, on the 29th of December, we saw Jupiter re-enter the sign of Pisces, and it will remain in Pisces in your 5th house until the 10th of May in 2022. So with Jupiter in the 5th house, this represents you experiencing a lot of joy and happiness. And this could be, in your everyday life, or this could be within your existing romantic relationship, or you could be experiencing a lot of joy and happiness with the relationships that you have with your children, especially if there was some kind of issue with your relationship with your child or with more than one of your children. You can actually basically heal the relationship and move on and, turn over a new leaf. Now, the 5th house represents owning your own business. So this can see you having a lot of energy and, creative energy really to put into your business. Or if you had been putting together a business plan, especially between mid-May and the end of July in 2021, you can revisit these plans. And, this could be launching new services, launching new products, or like I said, it could be you opening your own business. Now, the 5th house represents dating, romance, and sex. So for those of you who are single, this can see you meeting new partners, going out on lots of dates, or even forming a new romantic relationship with another person. Now, the 5th house rules over vacations and trips. And it also rules over things like going to parties, going to sporting events, and any kind of, entertainment venue. So this is like going to the theaters, going to, shopping centers, the casino. These are the first things that are jumping to mind. But nonetheless, you can basically enjoy going to entertainment venues and, like I said, going on trips and vacations. And there may just be a lot of festivities and celebrations during the first 4 months of the year, so you could be very busy with that. Now, lastly, with Jupiter in your 5th house, this can see some of you falling pregnant, and that is because Jupiter in a water sign is extremely fertile, and given that you've got Pisces on the 5th house cusp with Jupiter here, this is just basically spelling out that if you're wanting to try and conceive, you can actually be successful with that pursuit. Just remembering though that this is a general reading, and on a different level with Jupiter in the 5th house, you may just have children entering your life. It doesn't need to be you falling pregnant. This can be you surrounded by children. Maybe you're a teacher. Maybe you have a lot of new students, because the 5th house represents students in your life. So if you are teaching, well, you can certainly have many more students coming to you for your teachings. And of course, Jupiter rules over your 2nd house, which represents your finances, and the 5th house in astrology represents our speculative investments. So you may actually experience some kind of financial windfall of abundance with Jupiter here in your 5th house for the first 4 months of the year. Now, on the 14th of January, we are going to see Mercury station retrograde in the sign of Aquarius in your 4th house. Now, the 4th house rules over family, property, our living circumstances, just generally speaking, and it also represents our, deep psychological foundations. So with Mercury ruling over your 8th house, which is another very psychological house, I'm sure many of you Scorpios will be doing a lot of deep introspective work during this period of time. Now, you may actually be refinancing your home, okay, because Mercury rules the 8th house and the 8th house represents your mutual resources. So, you may be going with a different financier, you may be refinancing, you may actually receive money to put towards your home. And this is also indicated by the fact that Mercury rules over your 11th house, which represents investors. So there may be someone who is, investing in property or real estate with you. So this doesn't necessarily need to be the home that you live in. This could be like a timeshare, or this could be, you buying a block of land with other people. And, this could actually be with friends or with older siblings, as represented by Mercury ruling the 11th house, or it could even be with cousins and relatives, as represented by Mercury itself. Now, on a different level, you may actually have friends or older siblings, or actually I'm going to say just siblings in general. So friends, siblings, and perhaps paternal aunties or uncles moving in with you. Hopefully it's not like 20 people, but it could be one or more of those aforementioned individuals. Now, on a different level, you may actually discover some kind of hidden secret that a family member or a friend has been keeping. And this is because Mercury rules over information. Mercury rules over the 8th house, which represents anything which is secret and hidden, and Mercury ruling over your 11th house, which represents older siblings and your friends and, acquaintances and business connections, just indicates that you may discover, like I said, some kind of secret. Now, lastly, you could actually just be going into business with a friend or with a sibling or with a relative. And, this could be something that you have been considering for a very long time. Or perhaps there's been, a little bit of toing and froing with the negotiation process and basically deciding who gets what and what percentage you guys are investing in this business. Now, on the 18th of January, we are going to see the North Node enter the sign of Taurus, which means it will be transiting your 7th house. At the same time, we are going to see the South Node enter Scorpio, which means it will transit your 1st house. But let's start with the North Node and what it represents as a whole. The North Node in astrology represents a very ambitious energy, and this is where we can have a sudden rise in our status, and anytime the North Node changes signs, it brings something new into this area of our life. So given that the 7th house in astrology represents your one-on-one relationships, promises and commitments that you make to other people, marriages and partnerships of all kinds, you will absolutely be making many, many new connections during the 18 months from mid-January through till mid-July. So you Scorpios are going to make new friends, new client relationships, new business partnerships, new collaborations. And for those of you who are single, this is one of the biggest indicators for meeting a romantic partner. Now, for those of you who are in a committed relationship already, the 7th house represents your long-term partner or your spouse. So the North Node here tells me a lot about what's going on in their personal life. So your partner can become well-known, they can become famous, they can start a new job or receive a new promotion, they can become very, very ambitious. And it's almost like this ambition that they have is a self-fulfilling prophecy, because they may start carrying themselves differently. They may start looking more distinguished or sophisticated, or they may go for a really edgy look, and they may just start looking more sort of sexually alluring, and they may just have this sexual appeal, and there's like this magnetism about your partner. So they're just attracting all of this abundance and all of these opportunities to them. Now, on the sexual side of your relationship, well, the North Node in astrology represents becoming very experimental with sex. it is a very sexual energy anyway. And this is because the North Node is also known as Rahu. So if you want to, do a bit of research into Rahu, you'll see where I'm getting this information from. Now, this can absolutely spice things up in your sex life. Now, you may be finding your romantic partner more sexually attractive and appealing, and they could become a lot more adventurous in the bedroom, and this could absolutely spice up your romantic relationship as you know it. Now, lastly, on the positive side of having the North Node in your 7th house, this can see you being very successful in business because you are more ambitious, you're asking for more, you're taking more risks, you're being more experimental with the kinds of people that you collaborate with or with the kinds of business deals that you are willing to do. And this can see you becoming friends with people who are very ambitious or people who are very successful in their own right or in a business sense, or they could just have this really cool devil-may-care demeanor or air about them, and this could really inspire you to take more risks and give less what's about what other people think of you. Now, on the downside, having the North Node in the 7th house can see you being a little too aggressive in business. You may be too experimental with your business proposals. You may become a little bit greedy and you may be asking for too much, and in this way, the scales are tilted in that the people you're doing business with feel that you are asking for too much or that they're not receiving a fair deal. So obviously this can cut both ways. On one level, when you are negotiating a pay rise or when you're going for a job, you don't want to be underpaid. But if you're asking for way too much, then this can sort of like put other people off. So obviously you can apply that hypothetical situation to all kinds of business deals. Now, the same can be said for your relationship with your business partner. So again, you may be asking too much of them. All the challenges and the goals that you are setting for the business that you have with other people could seem really reasonable and achievable to you, but your business partners may be like, what you want to do within 1 year normally takes people 10 years and you're being unrealistic. So it's about meeting somewhere in the middle. Now, on a different level, you could just have this insatiable desire for sex. And that is because Rahu, or the North Node in astrology, has this, tendency to become obsessed and fixated with things. Now, wherever the North Node goes, this is what you become obsessed and fixated with. So when it's in the 7th house, this can be a fixation on getting into a relationship or an obsession with someone who you really like and you want to be in a relationship with. Or this can see you just being really sexually demanding and maybe your partner doesn't have the energy to keep up with you. Now, on a different level, you could be leading with your hedonistic desires and impulses and not really thinking objectively and clearly. And what I mean by that is sex, money, greed, the 5 senses, and overindulging in those and with these relationships. Now, in your committed relationship with your romantic partner, for those of you who are coupled up, the shoe can be on the other foot in that you may feel that your partner's sexual fantasies or needs or desires are not really reasonable or achievable, and they may just be incompatible with what you are wanting from the sexual side of your relationship. Now, your partner with, the North Node transiting the 7th house, which in your chart represents their 1st house, this shows that your partner could become quite selfish, quite self-involved, overly confident. And, when I say selfish, this could be in the bedroom or this could literally just be within your life. I just want to reiterate that I'm just trying to present a very balanced and objective overview of the positives and the negatives of the North Node and the South Node transiting your 7th and 1st houses respectively. So, take all of this with a grain of salt. Now, looking at the South Node transiting your 1st house and what this can do for you on a positive note. Well, this can see you becoming very, very spiritual, and you may be able to just channel divine information and knowledge and wisdom and then apply this in a really beautiful and harmonious way in terms of how you approach your life, how you approach your relationships, how you were thinking and how you were feeling. And, this can see you detaching from some pretty heavy emotions or emotional distress that you may have been carrying around with you. Now, you may actually become a master of something. And this is because the South Node, which is otherwise known as Ketu in astrology, represents perfection and mastery over a gift or a talent. And this is because the South Node represents our gifts that we carry with us from a past life. Now, obviously, not all of you are going to have natal South Node in Scorpio. Nonetheless, the South Node transiting your first house indicates to me that some of you may achieve a very proficient level in something of a spiritual nature or a creative nature, or something which just requires you to pour your heart into something. So it's like pouring all of your love and your creative energy into something. So this could simply be a hobby or a passion. It doesn't need to be something to do with business. Like I said, though, this can just see you becoming more spiritual and really in alignment with your higher self and with your highest good. Now, on the downside, the South Node or Ketu in astrology represents peculiarities and eccentricities. So because it's in the first house, people may think that you are becoming a little bit unusual or a little bit kooky or a little bit too into occult practices or a little bit too spiritual. And hey, I'm an astrologer and tarot reader. I see no issue with this at all, but this is really about, presenting a balanced overview of the upside and the downside of the South Node being in your first house. So with the South Node in your first house, this can see you becoming apathetic towards something, or you may feel like you have no fixed identity anymore, or no real desires. And this could be quite a break from what you are normally used to experiencing, because obviously Scorpios are filled with passions and desires, but the South Node basically dissolves things and it empties things out. So on the positive side or on the plus side, this can see you being emptied out of these negative emotions or rage or trauma, or not that trauma is an emotion, but your emotional attachment to certain experiences that you've had, whether these are voluntary or not, or if you have, experiences which are quite negative or difficult for you to relive, but you can't help them just playing on loop in your mind. The South Node here can kind of empty this out. So that's a really positive manifestation. But on the other side of the coin, like I said, this can basically see you becoming apathetic or dissolving you of fixedness when it comes to your personality. And obviously as a fixed sign, this could be quite, discombobulating for you. Nonetheless, this can see you feeling like you have misplaced your energy or misplaced your personality. And I certainly don't want to freak any of you guys out. And I feel like I'm not even able to freak a Scorpio out with anything that I say, because that's just Scorpio energy. But essentially, the spiritual purpose of you experiencing the South Node in the first house is for you to become more spiritual and for you to let go of having such passionate, burning desires that you are constantly in chasing mentality. So if we are always in the energy of I want, the universe basically gives you more of what you are saying that you are experiencing. So it's kind of like trying too hard. So if you're always in I want this energy, it's kind of like sand slipping through your fingers and it's almost unattainable. So the South Node in your first house allows you to detach, reflect, become introspective, become a channeler of, universal cosmic love and the flow or the creative flow of energy. And, this is really about you channeling this into spiritual practices which will benefit you and which will benefit other people. So lastly for the month, we're going to see Mercury retrograding from Aquarius back into the sign of Capricorn, which means it will be in your third house, and this will take place on the 25th of January. So this can see you going back to writing projects, traveling again for business, or revisiting an old office. Maybe you're going back to an office that you used to work in, or maybe your work environment is changing. On a different level, you may need to repair appliances that have broken down, technological devices. There may be some issues with your car. You may need to take it to the mechanic. Now, you could have some issues with your social media account or platforms, and this is because Mercury represents media, the third house represents the internet and media as well, and Mercury rules over your 11th house, which represents your social media following. So you may just be reactivating a social media account, or there may be a little bit of backlash with something that you've posted or put up. And I don't want to put that on you. So this is like a warning to make sure that you're being really careful with what you were posting, especially, during January and early February. Now, you may just be having some issues with sponsors, or there may just be some things that you need to iron out with, let's say, like a Kickstarter program or with your investors. And it doesn't need to be a bad thing. Mercury retrograde, given that it's in your third house and it rules over your 11th and 8th houses, which are money houses, can actually see you coming into money, especially if you have been waiting on it and, if it's been delayed. Now, lastly, you may just be changing insurers, putting your taxes in if they've been delayed. And also, Mercury represents siblings. Your third house represents siblings and relatives and like cousins as well. And Mercury rules over your 11th house, which also represents your older siblings. So there can be some huge changes in the life or the lives of your siblings, and especially if it is an older sibling. Now, there's not too much to report in February other than the fact that Mercury will station direct in the sign of Capricorn in your third house on the 3rd of the month. Now, in March, we are going to see Venus come out of the post-retrograde shadow period. And then on the 3rd of March, we are going to see Mars conjunct Pluto at 27 degrees in Capricorn. And this is going to occur in your third house. Obviously, Mars and Pluto are both of your ruling planets, so this absolutely will have a big impact on all Scorpios. Now, this transit is not to be feared. It doesn't mean that anything bad is going to happen to you. On the contrary, I see this as being a positive thing, and I will tell you why. Pluto conjunct Mars in your third house in Capricorn is actually sextiling you as a Scorpio sun, moon, or rising. So this transit is not to be feared. Given that it is occurring in your third house, which represents self-made worth, your relationships and your business partnerships with other people, and it also represents how you think and how you communicate, I actually see this as you totally and utterly transforming how you communicate in your relationships with other people. And this is especially to do with your relationships with your siblings, your relatives, your friends, your co-workers, and anyone who you do business with. Now, the third house represents all kinds of commerce and business matters. So if you own your own business, or if you have been looking to start your own business, this would be a very powerful time to do so. And that is because Mars is associated with starting things and initiating things. Mars rules over your 6th house, which represents your work. And given that this conjunction is taking place in Capricorn, which is a cardinal sign, which is all about initiating something, I see this as an amazing opportunity for some kind of entrepreneurial business venture, whether this is starting your own business, starting a new blog, starting a new social media channel, starting to write a book, starting new educational courses, whether this is you taking these courses or perhaps you are becoming an educator yourself. In any case, Pluto wants to transform and rejuvenate things and bring them back to life. So this is about either, purifying some kind of business that you have already started, or some kind of writing project that you've already started, or reviving it, or basically just changing it up altogether. Now, the third house represents your perspective and how you experience reality. Now, this can see you actually changing your perspective and literally reprogramming how you think. And this can also see you transforming beyond some kind of conflictual circumstance. And that is because Mars rules over your 6th house, which represents conflictual situations, and it also represents people that you would consider to be an open enemy or an arch nemesis. Now, obviously, Mars is your ruling planet, as is Pluto. So this can be about you understanding and identifying that when people seem to, do something which feels like it's trying to like cut you down or hurt you, this can see you actually transforming how you would usually respond to these people or to these situations. And in this way, you may be able to avoid certain conflicts or avoid, burning bridges. Not that you should be friends or buddies with someone who is, out to get you, but essentially this can see you no longer walking around feeling like the world is out to get me. It's kind of like removing the chip off your shoulder. And on a different level, Pluto is about discovering the root cause of something or the truth of a situation. And given that Mars rules over your 6th house, which represents your health, this can see you actually discovering the root cause of some kind of health issue or health ailment. Pluto is both the poison and the cure. So when we do not operate with Plutonian energy or confront it or really try to understand it, then it can have this power over us, which we sort of inflict inwards, and it can really eat away at us. But like I said, the cure is in Pluto. So this is about understanding yourself and your way of thinking on a very deep and psychological level. This is about thinking, where did this issue start? When did this problem start? And this could be a health issue, or this could be some kind of issue that you have in a personal relationship with another person. And this conjunction can basically allow you to understand things on a very deep and intuitive level and do whatever is necessary to either eradicate this toxic relationship from your life or give it a second chance and give it an opportunity to be reborn in a healthier way, which will lead to you experiencing a more harmonious relationship with this other person. Now, April is going to be one of the best months of the year for you guys, so jot that down. Now, on the 3rd and 4th of April, we're going to see the sun being exalted in the sign of Aries at the same time as the moon being exalted in the sign of Taurus. This only happens once a year during Aries season, so you can essentially treat this 48-hour window of opportunity as New Year's Day energy, and that is because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, which means that Aries season marks the beginning of the astrological year. So with the sun and the moon both being exalted, this is a very powerful time for manifesting. So this is a great time for you to write down all of your goals and your intentions for the next 12 months. And it's always great if you write them down, because then in 12 months' time, you can revisit them and see just how many of your wishes came true. Now, on the 12th of April, we are going to see the Jupiter and Neptune conjunction in the sign of Pisces at 23 degrees in your 5th house. Now, Neptune and Jupiter form this conjunction once every 13 years, but we are not going to see this occur again in our lifetime in the sign of Pisces. Now, because this is occurring in your 5th house, this is such an enormous indicator for you guys falling pregnant. In terms of some other ways that this can impact you, well, this can actually see a new romance starting in your life. And this is because the 5th house rules over romance as well as children. So you may actually start dating someone new, or if you're already in a relationship, this can see you experiencing so much joy and happiness with your significant other. Now, the 5th house represents our creative endeavors and our creative projects. So this can see you actually earning money from your natural talents and gifts and your creative projects. And this is because Jupiter rules over your 2nd house, which is Sagittarius, and the 2nd house represents finances and resources. Now, you don't necessarily need to earn cash per se. You could actually receive some resources in exchange for something that you are doing or producing, creatively speaking. Now, the 5th house, like I said, represents our natural gifts and talents, and also Neptune is associated with creativity as well. And Neptune more specifically rules over poetry, creative writing, music, and it rules over photography, filmography, and acting. So if you are interested in any of those things, or if you already are pursuing those kinds of artistic endeavors or even working in those industries, this can see you having an enormous breakthrough. And given that the fifth house represents our performances that we give, I see this as you having put forth some kind of creative piece that you've been working on, or a finished product, or even just the proposal of your idea, and then this can actually be received really, really well. And you can also receive some kind of windfall of abundance, financially speaking, for something that you have already created. And this is indicated by the fact that Jupiter rules over your second house, which represents your finances, and Jupiter as a planet represents wealth and abundance. Now, this can see you feeling way more confident, and you can simply just be experiencing such a joyous moment in your life. And this is because the fifth house represents joy and happiness, and it also rules over our self-confidence. Now, Jupiter rules over your second house, and the second house represents how much we value ourselves and what we value as well. So there may be a huge shift in terms of your priorities. Maybe you are prioritizing your happiness and your joy and your creative projects and your natural gifts and talents. Maybe you are prioritizing your children or having children, or maybe you're prioritizing your romantic partner. Now, this can see you getting more in touch with your feminine side, and also healing your sacral chakra or even your solar plexus. And this is because the sacral chakra is connected to creativity and feminine energy, and the solar plexus chakra is connected to our confidence. So you can see how these two energies tie into the meanings of the fifth house. Now, you may actually have a huge breakthrough in your romantic relationship, or this could be on a sexual level, whether you are with a romantic partner or not. And this is because the fifth house rules over sex, and Neptune represents healing, and Jupiter represents a blessing being bestowed. So the combination or the conjunction between Jupiter and Neptune can just see you having this enormous healing take place in this romantic relationship that you have, in your ability to enter into romantic relationships, and also, like I said, with your relationship with your children. And if you already have children, they may experience a huge blessing take place in their life, and actually your child may fall pregnant. So maybe you're going to become a grandparent. Now, on a different level, like I said, the fifth house represents that which we create, and the fifth house rules over children as a whole. So this doesn't necessarily need to be your biological children or falling pregnant. Maybe you are experiencing a lot of joy with your nieces and your nephews, or your stepchildren, or literally any children who are in your life. Now, Jupiter represents becoming a teacher. So you may actually teach children, and this can be via Neptunian things. So maybe you are teaching children how to heal themselves, or how to meditate, or how to connect with their emotions. Now, you can be creating something which helps children, even if you're not healing children. So this could be, art therapy, books which are for children. You may be looking at music therapy or guided meditations for children, or it could be something to do with connecting to your aura, or singing or dancing or performing, or you could be teaching children how to connect with their intuitive abilities or even their psychic gifts. And like I said, it doesn't need to be a one-to-one you teaching children. It could be that you create something which is intended for children. And given that Neptune rules over creative writing and poetry, maybe you are writing some kind of novel or short stories, or filming something which is for children. And this is because Neptune rules over filming, it rules over creative writing, and maybe you are actually taking photographs of things or drawing cartoons, and you're putting this together, and maybe this is designed for children. On a different level though, the fifth house also rules over romantic relationships and sports as well. So you could be teaching children sports, or you could be doing something creative which helps children with their sporting pursuits. And of course, this could see you actually receiving some kind of award or recognition for being a sporting athlete. In any case, this will be such a beautiful time for you, no matter whether you are a 23-degree Scorpio or not. All Scorpios will benefit from this beautiful healing energy, and you will be filled with so much creative energy that you just want to pour into your relationships with your children, with your loved one, or with your creative and artistic endeavors. Now, on the 30th of April, we are going to see a new moon solar eclipse take place at 10 degrees in Taurus, which means it will be occurring in your 7th house. Now, it's obviously important to look at what the ruler of the eclipse is doing. And this, of course, will be Venus. Venus will be at 27 degrees Taurus, and it will be conjunct Jupiter. And they're going to be just 1 minute apart. We're also going to have Neptune at 24 degrees Pisces, and we're also going to have Mars at 11 degrees Pisces. So not only are we going to see a stellium of 4 planets in Pisces in your 5th house, this new moon solar eclipse is also going to be making a trine to Mars, which is your ruling planet in your 5th house. Now, this can actually see a new romantic relationship taking place, and that is because your 5th house and your 7th house rule romance in your chart. And Venus is going to be conjunct Jupiter, and Venus rules over the 7th house, which is the committed relationship, and Jupiter rules over your 5th house, which is also romantic relationships. So you can see how this is such a positive indicator for, a romantic relationship taking place. Now, this can also lead to an exciting new business opportunity. Now, this could be an offer of more money within your existing contracts that you have with work, as represented by the fact that Jupiter is conjunct Venus, and Jupiter rules over your 2nd house, which represents finances and resources. Or, like I said, this could be a new business opportunity. You can be forming a new business partnership, or you could actually be commissioned or contracted to do some kind of creative work for another person. Now, on a different level, you can just be making new friends, and you could be starting up some kind of hobby together. In any case, I actually see this as being one of the most positive, energies surrounding eclipse that I've seen in a long time. So I am really excited for how this is going to play out for you Scorpios. Now, on the 10th of May, we are going to see Jupiter enter the sign of Aries for the first time since 2011. Jupiter will be transiting your 6th house until the end of October. Now, with Jupiter in your 6th house of work, it's highly likely that your workload will increase dramatically during this period of time. And even if you are not currently employed or in the workforce, even your responsibilities on a day-to-day basis can increase a lot. And it is very likely that you're going to need to donate a lot of your time and energy and your resources, and maybe even some finances, to people who are in need. And this is because the 6th house represents being of service to other people, and Jupiter is a very generous planet. So with Jupiter ruling over your 2nd house of finances and resources, this can really just see you being extremely generous during this period of time. Now, the 6th house represents counseling, and Jupiter as a planet represents counselors and advisors and coaches. So you may actually be engaging these services of a counselor, a therapist, or even a coach. Now, because Jupiter rules over your 5th house, which represents owning your own business, and it also represents sports, on one level, you may actually be hiring a business coach or you could actually be hiring some kind of sports coach. Now, this could actually see you hiring more employees during this period of time and really expanding your team at work. Or on a different level, you may actually experience improved health during this period of time, and that is because the 6th house represents your health, and wherever Jupiter goes, it bestows a healing and a blessing. Now, also on the 10th of May, we're going to see Mercury station retrograde in the sign of Gemini in your 8th house. So this can see you having some kind of psychological breakthrough, and that is because Mercury represents how you think, and the 8th house is a very psychological house. And also Mercury rules over the 8th house. So this can see you re-engaging the services of a psychologist or of a therapist, or you could be going back to some kind of healer. So this could be, well, first of all, a doctor, or this could be an energy healer, so like a Reiki practitioner, for example. Now, this can see you re-engaging the services of an astrologer or of a tarot reader, or you may just be revisiting your studies when it comes to astrology and tarot, and really anything which is esoteric or occult in nature. Now, the 8th house represents your mutual resources. So this can see you revising a will that you have drawn up. You may be receiving an inheritance which was delayed. You may be receiving money from other people who owe you, and this is because the 8th house represents, combined assets, combined bank accounts, and it also represents the money that we receive from clients and client services. So if a client owes you money, or if a business partner owes you money, or literally anyone that you collaborated with or have done business with, well, you can actually see this money finally coming in. Now, on the 16th of May, we're going to see a total lunar eclipse at 25 degrees Scorpio. So no matter what degree you have your Scorpio sun, moon, or rising in, this will have such a profound impact. But if I had to narrow it down, certainly those of you who have a 25 degree Scorpio sun, moon, or rising, or if your sun or rising is between, let's say, 21 degrees through till 29 degrees, well, let's just say 20 degrees through till 29 degrees, this will have a really big impact on you. And if you are a moon in Scorpio person, even if your moon is in Scorpio from 15 degrees through till 29 degrees, you will feel this very, very strongly. But like I said, all of you Scorpios will have some kind of big chapter coming to a close in your life. And this is because lunar eclipses represent a powerful ending take place. It's essentially like a full moon, but on steroids. So this particular full moon eclipse will actually be making a trine to the ruler of the eclipse, which is Mars. So Mars is actually going to be at 23 degrees Pisces, and it will be conjunct Neptune at 24 degrees. Obviously, Mars is your chart ruler, so you are going to feel this very strongly. So lunar eclipses, when they are in the 1st house, they're activating the 1st house and the 7th house because the sun will be in Taurus. And this eclipse will be making a square to Saturn in Aquarius in your 4th house. So this can basically see you ending a relationship either with a romantic partner or with a friend or with a business partner. Now, if this is with a romantic partner or with your spouse, you may be ending this relationship because you have fallen in love with someone else. And this is indicated by the trine from the eclipse to Mars and Neptune in your 5th house. Now, Neptune represents some kind of sacrifice being made, as does Piscean energy. So you may be sacrificing this relationship because you feel that it will benefit your children, as represented by the 5th house. Now, it could be that you are choosing your own happiness, and that is why you feel the need to end this relationship. Now, on a different level, you may be ending this relationship due to irreconcilable differences with regard to what your family believe and what their cultural expectations are. It could be conflicts with your family, or it could be to do with literally like your family's opinion, or maybe you are unhappy with your living circumstances, or you could be fighting with your significant other over property matters, or even like where you are currently residing. Maybe one of you wants to move to a different town or country, and this could be a reason for the breakup. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be the end of a romantic relationship. This could see you basically ending a friendship or ending a business partnership. Now, if you're not ending a relationship, bearing in mind that this is a general reading, so you're not all going to be impacted in the same way, it could just be that you're actually having an enormous emotional breakthrough or even a spiritual awakening. And this is indicated by the fact that the eclipse is occurring in your first house, and we've got the South Node in your first house as well. And also because the eclipse is trining Neptune, which represents spirituality and also healing on a deep level, this can see you having, like I said, a very big emotional breakthrough, and you may actually find yourself letting go of some kind of painful memory or some kind of baggage that you've been carrying around with you. Now, on a different level, this could actually see you having a huge creative breakthrough, and that is because lunar eclipses are about releasing a situation or a situation coming full circle or reaching its peak. Now, Neptune rules over your fifth house, which represents your creative projects and your artistic endeavors. So maybe you have finally finished some kind of huge creative project, or this could be like a major breakthrough with regard to your own business. Maybe you're launching a new product or a new service, and now this is actually a cause for celebration. And with regard to, relationships coming to an end, it could just be that you have successfully fulfilled some kind of contractual obligation. Maybe you had some freelance work which was commissioned, and now you've finished that. And this is supported by the fact that Mars rules over your sixth house of work. So this total lunar eclipse is basically seeing a very important chapter coming to a close in your life, and now that this has occurred, you will be able to welcome in something new and exciting into your life. Now, on the 22nd of May, we're going to see Mercury retrograde from Gemini in your 8th house back into Taurus in your 7th house. So with Mercury here, I expect many of you will be hearing back from an ex-lover or friend. You may be hearing back from old clients. You may be having a total reevaluation of all of your personal relationships, and you may go back into business with another person. Now, on a different level, you could have a very important conversation where there's basically like an emotional breakthrough that takes place, and you're able to reach this person on a deep and intimate level. And this is because Mercury rules over your 8th house, which represents your intimate and emotional connections, and it also rules over your 11th house, which represents friendships. So you may reconnect with an old friend, and you may actually be able to put some differences aside. Now, lastly, this can see you renegotiating contracts for work, or you could be renegotiating contracts with an investor or someone who you were doing business with, and obviously this could be a business partner, or this could be with a client. There's not too much to report in June other than the fact that Mercury will station direct in Taurus on the 3rd of the month. Then in July, on the 28th, we are going to see Jupiter station retrograde in the sign of Aries in your 6th house. Jupiter spends about 5 months of every year being retrograde, so it's really not that big of a deal. Nonetheless, though, having Jupiter retrograde in your 6th house can see there being some kind of obstacle that arises with regard to your work, or you may be struggling to maintain some new daily habits that you are trying to implement. On a different level though, this can see you becoming a lot more spiritual in your day-to-day practices. Now, on the 31st of July, we are going to see the North Node and Uranus conjunction at 18 degrees in Taurus. So this will be occurring in your 7th house. And we're also going to see your chart ruler, Mars, being at 17 degrees Taurus. So Mars is as good as included in this conjunction. So this is going to have such an explosive impact on your personal relationships. And I actually find it to be quite exciting. I really think a lot of you Scorpios are going to receive sudden new business opportunities. So there will be messages and correspondences going back and forth from people who want to do business with you. Or this could be, someone who has a new exciting idea and they want you to weigh in, or they may even want you to invest in their business idea. Now, this is shown by the 7th house in and of itself, but also Uranus represents reaching a large audience, or it represents, large groups and communities, and it also represents sudden downloads of information and new ideas. So you and a business partner, or you and other people that you collaborate with, could be working on some kind of business idea or proposal which is going to benefit a large group of people or a large community. Now, for those of you who are not going to be doing business with other people, this could just show that there may be some new demands or new needs that your clients have, and somehow this affects you. So with Uranus representing marketplaces, there may be some sort of shift in some kind of market, and this is likely to impact food chain supply. This is likely to impact finances and other people's resources, and also resources as a whole. Nonetheless, though, with this particular conjunction taking place in your 7th house, which represents your clients and the services that you offer and the transactions that you're doing, it's highly likely that there will just be some sort of big shift or big change that comes through with the work that you do, as represented by Mars ruling over your 6th house, and your clients will be like, there's this new social media platform, I need your services, what are you going to do about it? Or I'm having an issue with my production line with, clothing or perfume or skincare or something Taurian, or, it could just be to do with finances, where a new app comes out or new rules and regulations come out, and this could affect cryptocurrencies. This could affect you if you are a broker. This could affect you if you work in property or real estate, as represented by Uranus ruling over your 4th house of property. So ultimately, what I'm saying here is that if you are currently in the workforce, you will be required to liaise with lots of people at once. There'll be lots of correspondences coming through. You may have this sudden new opportunity to go into business with another person or with a group of people. And whatever industry you are in, the market, or essentially the whole lay of the land, which is also a very Taurian thing, is going to shift on its axes, and you will have this opportunity to push out some kind of cutting edge technology or a solution to a problem. And this is because Mars rules you, it's your chart ruler, it rules your 6th house, and the 6th house rules problems and conflicts. And Mars represents innovation, engineering, and solving issues. So you will absolutely need to remain incredibly flexible in all of your dealings with clients. Now, if a business opportunity does come through, it is highly likely that this will just be a strike while the iron is hot sort of situation, as is typical of having a Uranus transit. So it's sort of like, this is the deal on the table, take it or leave it. Now, because Uranus rules over your 4th house, which represents property, for some of you Scorpios, this could actually be an opportunity for you to build a new home, to sign a new lease, to purchase a new investment property, or to relocate somewhere totally random altogether. And this is represented by the North Node, representing something which is new and which has not been experienced before. So you guys are probably going to have a lot of changes in your one-on-one relationships. Now, this could actually lead to the sudden end of a personal relationship. Now, this could be with a flatmate or someone that you live with, as represented by Uranus ruling over your 4th house. So maybe someone is moving out abruptly, maybe someone is moving in abruptly, or you could be breaking up with your partner or with your spouse, or this could be with a business partner. It certainly doesn't have to be. This is a general reading after all. And I just want you to know that if a relationship is coming to an end at this time, It's likely to be your decision, and this is because Mars is your ruling planet. Now, on a different level, this can see you guys developing some kind of new technology or software which involves the food chain supply. Like I said, it could be cryptocurrencies, it could be robotics, it could be AI. And, on a more personal level, there can certainly be some big changes within the family home as represented by Uranus ruling over your fourth house. So the Scorpios who will be most impacted by this North Node Uranus Mars conjunction will be anyone with a Scorpio sun, moon, or rising at 18 degrees. But if I had to extend that out a bit for Scorpio suns and risings, this would be from 14 degrees through till 22 degrees Scorpio. But if your moon is in Scorpio, I'll extend this further to between 10 degrees moon in Scorpio through till 26 degrees. So once again, the date will be on the 31st of July. Now, Uranus transits are usually pretty close to the date, maybe like a day before or a day after, but let's just give this, a 3 or 4 day window of opportunity. So these changes could be taking place, or these correspondences could be coming through anywhere from like the 27th of July through till about the 3rd or the 4th of August. Now on the 20th of August, we are going to see Mars enter the sign of Gemini, which means it will be transiting your 8th house. Now this transit is extremely important because we are going to see Mars transiting Gemini for literally 7 months. And that is because Mars is going to station retrograde in Gemini at the end of October, and it will be retrograde until the 12th of January. So whatever you are commencing from the 20th of August to, let's say, the end of October will be of the utmost importance later in this transit report. So when Mars in retrograde hits at the end of October, this is when you will be revisiting the themes of whatever you started around now. So with Mars in your 8th house, this shows where you are putting a lot of your energy and effort. And that is characteristic of Mars as it is, but Mars is your ruling planet. So this transit will impact you so much. With Mars in your 8th house, you're going to be putting a lot of energy and effort into your mutual resources. So I'll just rattle off a few things here of what that could mean. Combining accounts with other people, looking at your joint accounts or your joint assets, looking into getting financial help or assistance, or liaising with a financial planner or broker. You could be drawing up a will. You could be looking at inheritances or receiving inheritances or doing your taxes, or you could be looking at spousal maintenance, child support, alimony money, or you could be performing some kind of investigation. Okay, the 8th house represents deep research, and it's essentially my private investigator house in astrology. So, it's not mine, but with Mars here, you are going to be doing a real deep dive into something that you want to learn more about. And this is indicated by the fact that the sign Gemini itself represents learning. So you're probably going to be collecting information and collating information, and you may be wanting to use this later in the year with regard to your work or some kind of project that you're going to be putting together. The 8th house rules over conspiracy theories. So maybe you will be having some kind of enormous awakening when it comes to understanding things on a deeper level, or you may personally be uncovering some kind of important information that the world needs to know. Now, the 8th house rules over surgeries and procedures. So you may be doing some preliminary research into a surgery or a procedure that you either want to take, so this could be elective, or one which has been suggested for you to take. Now, the 8th house represents sex, so you could be starting a new sexual relationship at this time, or you could just be very interested in something to do with sexual taboos or even occult topics. The 8th house represents anything esoteric and occult. So you could be very interested in astrology, tarot, energy healing, chakra healing. You could be looking into Reiki or numerology. And the 8th house represents the initiation process on a sort of like mystical level. So you could start discovering some exciting new psychic abilities or intuitive abilities, or you could be working at honing your skills further. And of course, you could be looking at trying to help heal other people. So like I said, mark this one in your calendar. It's the 20th of August. This will be of the utmost importance later in the year. Now, on the 9th of September, we are going to see Mercury station direct in the sign of Libra in your 12th house. So this can see you revisiting astrology and revisiting anything which is spiritual in nature. So this could be meditating again, doing yoga again, seeing an astrologer again or a tarot reader again. So it's all about going back to something. And when we have Mercury retrograde in literally any house, it basically allows us to see things from a different perspective, and we can really have a breakthrough. So if you have been struggling with, for example, your understanding of a complex astrological concept, this would be a period of time where you can actually have a breakthrough. Now, the 12th house represents psychologists and therapy. So you may be wanting to revisit a psychologist or a therapist or anyone who is a healer. So this could be a spiritual healer as well. And this is emphasized by the fact that Mercury rules over your 8th house, which is also associated with spirituality, anything occult, and also healing. Now, the 12th house is connected to our subconscious fears and our addictions, and Mercury rules over your 8th house, which is also connected to fears and addictions. And also the 12th house represents our self-sabotaging behavior. So you may actually come to realize that something that you have been doing has been sabotaging you. Now, this could be with regard to forming friendships as represented by Mercury ruling over your 11th house. But having said that, the 11th house rules over large-scale events and our long-term goals and dreams. So if you have been struggling with some kind of goal or dream that you've had and that you've really wanted to have fulfilled, this can actually show you where you have been basically cutting yourself off at the knees or self-sabotaging, and you can certainly have a huge breakthrough with this regard. Now, the 12th house is also connected to creativity, so you could actually have some kind of creative breakthrough. And if you used to like creating music or drawing or singing or dancing, or even if you were thinking about getting back into acting or photography or filmography, this would be a great time to do so, because the 12th house represents artistic pursuits, and it also represents our hidden talents. So you may actually come to discover that there is an aspect or a process with regard to these creative endeavors that you have been missing, and now you're able to hone your skills and talents, and maybe you're able to produce a creative project that you had been working on for years or that you had left by the wayside, and now you're actually able to finish it. Now, on the 22nd of October, we are going to see Libra season commence. And this is important for you Scorpio suns specifically. And that is because every year, the month before our season starts, as in your sun signs season, this is when you can experience a lower level of vitality and energy. So again, this is specifically for you Scorpio suns, but you can apply this to whatever your sun sign is. So every Libra season, you Scorpio suns are going to feel a little more lethargic or lazy, or you may be susceptible to falling ill. So it's important, especially during Libra season every year, that you guys are really taking care of yourself, and you may be inclined to be a little more antisocial during this period of time, or you may just need more frequent breaks from socializing and with being around people, and I mean more so than usual. Now, on the 23rd of September, we're going to see Mercury retrograde from Libra back into the sign of Virgo, which means that it will be retrograde in your 11th house. This can see you reevaluating and rethinking your strategy for achieving a long-term goal or dream. Now, on a different level, this can see you returning to an old dream that you had for your future, and this could be one which was connected to your childhood or something that you had wanted to do, but you just thought that you would really just never be able to pull it off. Now, this can see certain concerts or large-scale events that you want to attend being cancelled or being delayed, or there may be some confusion with a ticketed event. So make sure that if you are going to a concert or an event, that you've already printed out your tickets, or that you've got them on your phone, and that your phone is fully charged when you go to the event. And another big thing would be making sure that you've got the right date or the right location. Now, on a different level, this can see you having miscommunications with friends, with clients, with business connections, and maybe even with older siblings. And also the 11th house rules over our social media platforms. So make sure that you are checking for typos, but probably more importantly would be to make sure that you are not saying something which can be misinterpreted or misconstrued. On the 2nd of October, we are going to see Mercury station direct in the sign of Virgo in your 11th house. Now, on the 25th of October, we are going to see a new moon solar eclipse at 2 degrees Scorpio. So this will be occurring in your first house. Now, this new moon in Scorpio will actually be exactly conjunct Venus at 2 degrees. And of course, we also need to look at what the ruler of this eclipse is doing, and we will see Mars being in Gemini in your 8th house. So with this new moon eclipse being in your first house, this essentially shows that there is going to be a new chapter starting for you on a very personal level. Now, when new moon solar eclipses occur in our sign, this can really impact us on a multitude of different levels. So this can see there being new friendships starting, a new relationship starting, a new approach to work. You may be wanting to change jobs. You could be wanting to relocate from where you were living. You could fall pregnant around this period of time. And, new moon solar eclipses bring something new into our lives, but because the South Node is with this new moon eclipse, it's likely that this will take on either a spiritual element, or you may feel like you need to sacrifice or compromise or give something up in order to see this new chapter start in your life. Now, because the new moon solar eclipse will be conjunct Venus, which rules over your 12th house, this can see you feeling more artistic or more creative. This can see you getting in touch with your feminine side or with your emotions, and you can certainly feel more connected to some kind of higher power or some kind of cosmic force in your life, and this could be propelling you forth to start new creative projects or new creative ventures. You may feel extremely creative during this period of time. Now, with Venus ruling over your 12th house and being conjunct this eclipse in your first house, this can see you investing in your appearance to try and beautify yourself or make yourself feel more attractive or more sexually alluring or appealing. And this is because the 12th house represents creativity, and Venus represents music and art and beauty, and it also rules over things like makeup and hair. So although this may sound superficial, this can actually see you tapping into what is occurring for you on a deep level with Venus ruling over the 12th house. And what I mean by this is if you feel more spiritual, if you feel more aligned with your higher self and with your highest good, or if you feel like you are about to, do a U-turn or a 180 in your life and really course correct and change the trajectory that you were on, sometimes changing your physical appearance can help to bring this metaphysical or this internal change to the forefront. So that's why it can be really powerful when we go through like a breakup or a big life change, or we, change where we live, or we become a parent, or, all of these things. When these big life events occur, this is why changing your hairstyle can be really satisfying. This is why we can get a tattoo to commemorate some kind of experience, whether this is something new starting or something old ending. In any case, Venus rules over beauty, fashion, makeup. It rules over the 5 senses, and it rules over our wardrobe and our aesthetic. So because this is occurring in your first house, I'm sure that many of you Scorpios are are going to like change the way that you dress yourself and how you carry yourself. And, this will be very perceptible to the people who are already in your life. And even if you've only met someone once, when you meet them again, they may be like, whoa, you've completely transformed and now it's like you're a different person. On a different level, Venus rules over your 7th house. So because the ruler of your 7th house, which represents relationships and romantic partnerships, is conjunct this new moon solar eclipse in your 1st house, this indicates that there may be a new romantic relationship starting. Or if you're already in a relationship, maybe you're making things exclusive. Maybe this is now a monogamous relationship. Maybe you are getting proposed to, or maybe your partner is proposing to you. Or this could just show that there is a new chapter starting in your romantic life. And even if you are single and this doesn't necessarily bring forth a new romantic relationship in your life, maybe you suddenly feel ready to start dating again. Now, like I said, we're going to see Mars being in Gemini at this period of time during the eclipse, and Mars rules over the eclipse, which is, obviously in Scorpio. So with Mars being your chart ruler and ruling over, as I said this, my candle went out. Anyway, with Mars ruling over you, this indicates that whatever new chapter is starting in your life, this could be something which was a secret that you didn't want to tell other people. Or this could even have been like a secret that you kept from yourself. Maybe you did not acknowledge how deeply you wanted something to start. And this could be a romantic relationship. This could be to fall pregnant. This could be to get into a relationship. This could be with regard to what you want to do for work. That's another way that this can play out. And that is because this new moon eclipse being conjunct Venus, which rules over your 7th house of contracts, and then the ruler of the eclipse being Mars, which rules over your 6th house of work, indicates that a new business opportunity may be afoot. So you may be, joining forces with someone and going into business together. There may be an important new client that enters your life, or some of you could just be making a new friend with this eclipse, and this person could be someone who you have a very deep emotional connection to. Now, on the 23rd of October, we are going to see Scorpio season commence at the same time as Venus will enter Scorpio, and both the Sun and Venus will be in Scorpio until the 22nd of November. So this is going to be such an auspicious time for you, and you're going to feel more attractive and beautiful and lucky, and you're going to attract people to you like moth to a flame. And this is because we're following on from this eclipse energy where you are now going to carry yourself differently. You will have changed your appearance. And even if your appearance hasn't changed all that much, if at all, your aura is different and you are now more attractive, and somehow you are more open to new relationships starting, and people are really sensing this change within you, and this is giving you a very attractive quality, even if people can't put their finger on it. Now, on the 28th of October, we are going to see Jupiter re-enter the sign of Pisces for another 2 months before it's out of Pisces for another 12 or so years. So with Jupiter re-entering your 5th house, this can see you experiencing a lot of joy and happiness within your romantic relationship, or with the relationship that you have with your children, or this can see you going back to finish some kind of creative project, or you could be returning to a hobby or a passion of yours. Now, on the 29th of October, we are going to see Mercury enter the sign of Scorpio. And this is really important because the next day, on the 30th of October, Mars is going to station retrograde in the sign of Gemini. So this means that Mercury and Mars will actually be in mutual reception with one another. And that is because Mars rules over Scorpio and Mercury rules over Gemini. So when they are in each other's signs, or the opposite signs, this is showing that Mars and Mercury are actually working in tandem with one another. So if you recall, I said you'll want to take note of whatever you were doing around the 20th of August through till this point in time. So you will now be revisiting those themes or those things, especially if you commenced something and then you sort of left it by the wayside, or even if you're working steadily on something since the 20th of August, this can basically see you encountering some kind of challenge or obstacle. So as I mentioned earlier, Mars will spend 7 months in total in Gemini in your 8th house. So this is from the 20th of August through till the end of March in 2023. And Mars will be retrograde from the 30th of October through till the 12th of January. So when a planet goes retrograde, and especially when Mars goes retrograde, we are suddenly now having to put like 3 times more effort into whatever it is that we are trying to achieve. Mars rules over our willpower. It rules over strategies, planning, and new objectives. It rules over entrepreneurship. It rules over pioneering and engineering and starting something new. Now, because Mars is in your 8th house, this is going to impact you in one or more of the following areas: your mutual resources, your joint bank accounts, child support, spousal maintenance, alimony. This could be impacting you with regard to wills, inheritances, taxes. This could be to do with you investigating something, or you could be doing a lot of deep research into a matter. Now, this could see you looking at refinancing, working with, financial planners or bankers or brokers, and you could have been investigating a surgery or a procedure that you are wanting to take or that you are considering taking. So now that Mars is retrograde in your 8th house, essentially there is going to be some kind of big challenge or obstacle or several which occur. But it's important to note that you are going to be able to achieve something amazing at the end of this period. So this is really about you cultivating your willpower and honing your skills and staying determined and remaining focused on whatever it is that you are trying to achieve. So there may be issues with joining your bank accounts with another person. You may have issues with someone that you've already joined bank accounts with. You may have issues with some kind of application that you are applying for with, perhaps applying to purchase a property or invest in something. You could be trying to get finance to invest in something. You maybe need to refinance if, some kind of financier is going bust, or if your broker can no longer work, they may be handing over, all of your client documents to another broker, obviously with your consent, or hopefully with your consent. And on a different level, you may have initiated some kind of court case proceeding, as represented by Mars ruling over your 6th house, which represents court cases and legal matters. So you may have to, pay some money, which is going to a former business partner or a former spouse, or you may be paying, spousal maintenance or child support money, or maybe, you stopped receiving these funds and now you need to chase them up. Maybe you need to take them to court. Maybe you need to engage with lawyers or solicitors to draft up some kind of letter. If you were told that you were going to receive an inheritance, there may have been some kind of caveat there, or there may have been an objection, and now you're needing to go to court for this matter. Now, with the 8th house representing conspiracy theories and deep research, maybe you have been investigating some kind of theory or doing your own private investigation or deep research because you feel that something isn't really adding up. Now, given that Mercury will be in Scorpio, which means it will be transiting your 1st house, and given that Mercury rules your 8th house and 11th house, this could see you investigating something to do with a business partner, or you could be investigating your friends or clients, or even something that a sibling told you or a relative told you. Now, the 8th house rules over our intuitive abilities and our psychic abilities. So if you had recently discovered that you have some kind of intuitive or psychic ability, maybe things were going well with that, and maybe you even started charging for your services, or maybe you thought that you were now cosmically aligned to this more spiritual purpose, and now you could be having doubts, or you could feel like your channeling abilities are blocked in some way, shape, or form. It's important to remember that all of these potential obstacles or challenges that I am citing, they're not designed to make you fail. It's quite the opposite. You are experiencing these challenges and these obstacles to lead you to victory, to lead you to triumphing over this difficult and this challenging situation. Because Mars is your ruling planet, this just shows that, it's character building stuff, whatever it is that you're going through. And I'm not saying you deserve to go through anything horrible or torturous. It's just like, this is going to make you come out the other end so much stronger. So if this is with regard to a conflictual situation or a legal situation, you know, the spiritual or cosmic purpose of this would be to make you more assertive, to make you face challenges head on. Or perhaps there is someone in your life who, you know, was always putting you down or bullying you or belittling you or denigrating you, and, you know, you just let it go by the wayside. But now this situation has materialized in a physical form or in a tangible form, and it's because you need to actually stand up to this person and right a wrong, even if it was from a very long time ago. Now, with the 8th house representing our psychic ability or our intuitive ability, if you are experiencing some kind of challenge when it comes to, you know, performing your Reiki healings, or with regard to doing your tarot readings, or it could be with your astrological research or your chart readings, if you feel like you are suddenly unable to tap into the same source of wisdom that was previously available to you, I just want to reassure you that your abilities don't just magically disappear or dissipate. If there is a challenge, it is because you need to adjust something in your daily routine. And this is represented by the fact that Mars rules over your 6th house, and it is your chart ruler, and it represents what you do every day. It's your daily routines, it's your rituals, it's what time you get up, it's how much you work out, it's how you're paying attention to your health. So if you have been burning the candle at both ends, this is just indicative of the fact that you need to take better care of yourself. And certainly because Mars is your ruling planet, when it is retrograde, you will experience a lower level of vitality or lower levels of energy. And I'm not saying this because I want you to experience that or because I'm putting it on you. It's just a fact that whenever our chart ruler is retrograde, this is when we need to be a little bit more careful. And that is especially the case because Mars rules over accidents. Mars is retrograde in your 8th house, which represents sudden reversals. So this is about you slowing down and treating this as more of Mars in Scorpio energy, which is being calm, cool, collected, and calculative, rather than Mars in Aries energy, which will just, race in head first. Now, lastly, like I said, Mercury is in Scorpio and Mars is in Gemini, so they're in mutual reception with one another. And Mercury rules over your 11th house, which represents your investors. And the 11th house also rules over things like government subsidies, pensions, rents, royalties, dividends. So there may be a renegotiating of certain contracts with regard to those finances and those resources coming through. Now, lastly, with Mars retrograde in your 8th house, this can see you basically recommencing some kind of sexual relationship that you had with another person, or if you have been experiencing some kind of issues with your sexual performance, or if you have some kind of, issues with your sexuality, or if you've been seeing someone to help you with your concerns or your issues with intimacy, you can actually have an enormous breakthrough during this period of time. I just want to reiterate that, anything that you've been struggling with at length, when Mars is retrograde in your 8th house, you can have a huge breakthrough with these issues, and it is a great time for you to really hone your problem-solving skills and abilities. Now, on the 8th of November, we are going to see a total lunar eclipse take place in the sign of Taurus. So this will occur at 16 degrees Taurus in your 7th house, and it will be in exact conjunction with Uranus. This eclipse will also be squaring Saturn in Aquarius, as well as opposing Mercury and Venus in Scorpio in your 1st house. So this represents a T-square formation because we have this opposition, and then the planets that are in opposition with one another are both squaring Saturn in Aquarius in your 4th house. Now, the ruler of this eclipse is Venus. And of course, Venus is in your first house and it is opposing the eclipse. So this represents a pretty tense energy, and basically, the conditions are ripe for some kind of spontaneous ending in one of your relationships to occur. Now, I see this as being some kind of release from a contract or from some kind of obligation or promise that you had made. And that is because Mercury is involved with this eclipse and it rules over your 8th house. And we've got Mars, which is your ruling planet, being in Gemini in your 8th house. So I see this as you escaping some kind of relationship which was having a very oppressive impact on you, as represented by Saturn being in your 4th house and basically squaring this eclipse in Mercury and Venus. So essentially, this can see you ending a romantic relationship with another person, or this could be a business relationship, or you could be in some sort of unpleasant living circumstances. So maybe you are living with individuals and you just don't get along with them. Maybe you've been wanting to break your lease or sell your property or move out, and there hasn't really been this opportunity for you to do so. And this is indicated by the fact that Saturn and Uranus are effectively squaring one another, and Saturn and Uranus both rule over your 4th house. So it's almost like you've been forced to deal with some kind of untenable living situation, and now you're going to have this ability to break free from this situation, or to break lease, or if you've been wanting to sell your property for ages, now you can actually successfully do so. Now, this can see your significant other doing something which is very unpredictable with regard to their career. So it doesn't necessarily need to be you breaking up with anyone. It could just be that your partner is going through some kind of powerful ending in their life, or maybe a very significant chapter is coming to a close. And this could be with regard to their career. So maybe they are, quitting their job. Maybe they are changing departments, or maybe their responsibilities have changed. Or maybe there is something that has occurred for them on a personal level that they are struggling to deal with or struggling to accept. In any case, this can actually show that you are going to need to support your significant other, or you may be having to provide a lot of emotional support, as represented by Mars being in the 8th house, to someone who is very close to you. So this could be to a family member or to a friend, and this is indicated by the fact that Saturn is in your 4th house, which represents your family, and it represents people that you live with. So maybe there's a lot of family drama going on, even if you're not directly involved, but this could be having a very taxing impact on your own psychological foundations. And like I said, this total lunar eclipse could just see you having to provide a lot of emotional support for other people, but this could actually be at your own expense. Now, lastly for the year, on the 20th of December, we are going to see Jupiter re-enter the sign of Aries, which means it will be transiting your 6th house. This can see you thriving in the workplace and with all of your work responsibilities. So even though it might have been pretty full on between May and the end of October, now you will have been able to reintegrate your knowledge and apply it in a more methodical and practical way. So you can certainly have more responsibilities in the workplace, but you will feel so much more confident in your ability to handle these matters. And with Jupiter transiting your 6th house, I also anticipate that many of you Scorpios will experience some kind of reprieve from a health ailment or health issue, or at the very least, you can be feeling like you have a lot more energy and you can be in very, very good health with Jupiter transiting your 6th house. And so Scorpio, I hope you've enjoyed this 2022 yearly horoscope. Obviously, it's going to be such a profound year of change for you guys, but this is going to be truly exciting. So I hope that 2022 brings you many blessings and lots of abundance. Please take care of yourselves, and I will see you guys next time.